Hello there, everybody, and hello, Dr. Janine.
Hello, Norm. Great to be here.
It is great to be here. We have another big week for you, a big episode for you of the Dr. Janine Show. I can't wait to tell everybody about it. First of all, this is how the show sort of works. It's every Monday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. We hope you'll join us each week. And we take one issue, one topic of discussion, and break it down. What is it? What is the ailment? What are the symptoms? How can we avoid getting this ailment or whatever it happens to be? Then we've got pet issues, kids we'll talk about, a recipe on the way, a beauty tip, and much more. But let's talk about what the actual ailment, if that's the right word, is this week.
So we're talking about iron deficiency and what it is, how it happens, why this is so common, and most commonly happening in women, of course. And we'll talk about that, but it's going to be a great hour. And of course, which we share in every episode, which I know you always look forward to, Norm, is our exercises for our face yoga. It's going to be fun. We're also going to talk about a fantastic recipe that actually helps with our iron levels. So it's really going to be a great hour.
I can't wait for that. And we want to hear from you also. Every single week, we invite you to send us questions. Right underneath, wherever the show is that you're watching, send your questions in. You can send them in advance also. Leave your email address so we can include you in any email newsletter, for example. Dr. Janine is online during the show to answer those questions, and we'll answer a lot of them here during the show also. And we appreciate everybody who's been sending in those questions for every episode. Don't forget, by the way, to like, and also to subscribe and click that bell so you turn on the notifications so you never miss another episode of the Dr. Janine Show. All right, let's get right into it. First of all, iron deficiency. Not everybody really even knows what it is. What is it?
So iron deficiency is a lack of iron, just like it sounds, and there's something called iron deficiency anemia, and this is when the hemoglobin levels become low. And there's different causes for this, which we're going to discuss, and it is very common, and most commonly happening certainly in women. This can happen in our pets as well, which we're going to talk about, but it is something that is definitely treatable, and it's something that we can do naturally to get our iron levels where they should be. There's other types of anemias as well. So there's something called a B12 and even a folic acid anemia, and these are a little bit different. So the way that the cells look in these types of anemias, they actually get big, but you can still be very tired and have some of the symptoms which would be associated with low iron. So usually it's a blood test that will help to diagnose the difference between these different anemias, and that's sort of the gold standard how to discover what's happening here.
Iron deficiency anemia. It sounds pretty complicated, actually. How do we know that we have it? Is there a way to tell without going to a doctor?
Well, best case scenario is that you're having your blood work done, and certainly it's going to be discovered in your blood work. However, there are some common symptoms that you can actually check on your own, and these would be signs, so it's not definitive. But one thing that you can do, Norm, is you can actually look at the bottom part of your eye, and when you peel down that lower eyelid, it should be a nice reddish to pink color. And if it's not, it could be an indication that your iron levels are low.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's amazing. So when I think I have bloodshot eyes in the morning, it may be an iron deficiency issue.
Not exactly.
Oh.
So when you're in bloodshot eyes, you would be looking at the whites of the eyes. What I'm talking about is the tissue right underneath the eye, the lower eyelid inside there. So that's where you're looking. You want it to be that nice red color. So, and if it's not, if it's very pale, then that could mean that you're iron deficient. Oh. Another thing you can do is you can actually check your nails. So if you press down on your nails when you let go, and this is of course if you don't paint your nails, and you didn't paint your nails today, Norm?
No.
So when you press down on your nails and you let go, then you should see that that redness comes back very quickly. If it stays quite white, that could be an indication that you have an iron deficiency. So, you know, these are just little signs that will tell you if you've got that iron deficiency. Some other symptoms of iron deficiency would include fatigue, shortness of breath, and if you lack that oxygenation, because that's exactly what iron does, is it helps to carry the oxygen in our blood. So let's say you're exercising or you go up the stairs and you feel out of breath, that could be because you're iron deficient. There's some other, telltale signs of iron deficiency. This could be headaches. If you have a low thyroid, so when your thyroid becomes deficient, your thyroid is reliant on having enough enough iron. So with iron deficiency, now your thyroid could become compromised, and now you're lacking in energy and you are gaining weight and you have all the symptoms of a low thyroid and can develop a hypothyroid condition and it started with your iron deficiency. So that's really common as well. Some other signs and symptoms would be cold hands and feet. So for a lot of people that suffer with cold hands and feet, that could be another one. And then there's some more obscure symptoms. So some people have the symptom that they wouldn't necessarily realize is related to that low iron is when you start to get sores and sort of cracks at the corners of the mouth, and people don't realize how could that be, and that's related to an iron deficiency.
I had no idea. I thought it was just dryness of the skin.
No, it could be because of that deficiency, and we're going to talk about parasites in a few moments, and that could be related to the iron deficiency as well if you've got some of those nasty critters in your gut. So we promise to get to that. As well as if you have the spooning of the nails. So some people, they'll develop their nails, instead of sort of curving this way, they'll start to spoon and look like a little spoon, and that can be an iron deficiency as well. Restless leg syndrome can be related to an iron deficiency, and something called pica. Now, pica is very interesting. Have you heard of this before?
No, never.
So pica is that craving for undigestible foods, so ice. So people who crave chomping on ice can be because of an iron deficiency.
Oh, wow.
Some kids crave dirt, eating dirt, and really obscure things, and that can be because of an iron deficiency, and it's called pica.
This is amazing to me, that you can get this in depth into an issue like iron deficiency and bring up things that I think, for the most part, people have never thought about. And yet, you might now be thinking about other people in your life, besides yourself for that matter, and realize that there might be some telltale signs, and there's more too.
Yes, so one other big one is hair loss. So if you are losing your hair easily, this is common after childbirth, that women, and that could be because of the relative loss in their blood volume after having this. Always happened to me in all my pregnancies, that I lost my hair because that relative loss in that blood volume, and certainly having that low iron, which is very common in pregnancy. One of the other signs and symptoms would be, certainly if you've got the blood work done and the doctor says, okay, you have an iron deficiency, and that's something that you have discovered, then absolutely it's something that you have to take a look at. And we'll talk about some of the drawbacks of the conventional ways of treating that iron deficiency, but we'll get to that in just a second.
Iron deficiency anemia. What are the causes, though, of iron deficiency specifically? Do we know specifically what they are?
Yes, so this is very common in vegetarians. So if you're not, so the best absorbed form of the heme iron is from meats, and that's the best way that our body absorbs. Now, certainly if you don't eat meats and you're vegetarian or you're vegan, or there's different types of vegetarianism, then you're not getting that animal source of that heme iron. It can be difficult to get enough iron from vegetarian sources. Now, you can certainly do it, but you just have to be cognizant of the fact that you may be in that deficiency state, that you're getting enough of those iron containing foods, and that's something that we're going to share in just a moment. Certainly if you have poor absorption, so anybody who has digestive issues, leaky gut syndrome, which we talk about in other and previous videos, but also if you've had gastric bypass surgery, that would be another indication. So certainly that part of the stomach that helps with that iron absorption has been removed, and now there could be a deficiency because of having that gastric bypass. Another common complaint would be GERD, so reflux.
GERD? G-E-R?
GERD, yes.
Okay.
And this is acid reflux disease, and that's what do you call it when you break down the words? Anyways, it'll come to me in a second. So the GERD is that technical term for acid reflux. And when you have acid reflux, then you're not absorbing necessarily. And if you're taking medications, especially for the acid reflux, you could be deficient in that iron because you're not absorbing it. People who have stomach ulcers, so H. pylori is a bacteria which is known to cause stomach ulcers, and if you're prone to this, or maybe you've taken the antibiotics for stomach ulcers, you could be low in your iron as well and have that iron deficiency anemia. If you take antacids, this is another indication that you may be iron deficient because now you don't have that stomach acid to help with that absorption of that iron, which is really common as well. People who are celiac, again, compromised digestion, you're not absorbing that iron. And also if you have a parasite.
Okay, you said you were going to get to this, yes.
Yes, so with parasitic infections, and maybe we'll take a look at a parasite. So
Oh,
parasites.
please, I can't wait to see a picture.
Yes, and most specifically.
Can we bring up the parasite headshots, please?
Yeah,
Thank you.
here we go with the parasites. So the parasites, here we go with the hookworm. Now the hookworm is notorious for, unfortunately robbing us of our iron levels. And this is something that, if you have a hookworm, you wouldn't necessarily know it, but it's a good thing certainly to pay attention to symptoms related to parasites. And we spoke about that. So check out our video on IBS when we talk about IBS and some of the, imbalance and some of those bad guys that can be in the digestive tract. We share all those symptoms there.
Yeah, that was last week.
Yes. So
that was a fun episode, actually, if you want to look it up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it
doesn't sound very fun, does it? Irritable bowel syndrome, but it was.
Well, it was, and very educational at the
Yeah.
end of the day. So as much as people, don't like to talk and or think about the fact that you may have parasites in your digestive tract, then it certainly is a possibility. Now, some other, causes of an iron deficiency anemia would be if you have low enzymes. So if you don't have enough digestive enzymes to actually break down your food, especially your iron-containing foods, you're not absorbing that iron into your bloodstream, and that could be one of the causes as well. And if you have heavy metal toxicity, so the great thing about the recipe that we're sharing today is that it includes some ingredients, so make sure you stay tuned right until the end of this episode. It has some fantastic ingredients which are really important for not only giving your body the iron, but also for trapping heavy metal toxins. And heavy metals, it's not the type of music.
Right.
The heavy metal toxins would be things like mercury and aluminum, things that we're exposed to in our environment, but we don't necessarily know it. And when these heavy metal toxins build up, it's one reason, yes, absolutely, to detox, but also to think about heavy metal detox to get those toxins out. And there are some, and we'll talk about this, some specific, things that you can take naturally to trap those heavy metals and get them out of the body.
So it's easy to do.
It is easy to do. It's not a difficult thing. We're going to talk about that, but it also helps with your iron levels because those heavy metals can be chelating or trapping the iron in your body, and that's one reason why you may have the iron deficiency anemia.
This is a lot to take in, but one of the nice things about this is, like I mentioned a moment ago, you can go back to some of the other episodes and come back to this one even, right? And relearn or listen again to what a naturopathic doctor has to say. These are all like what we call questions with natural answers, which are coming up, by the way, in a moment. We will be speaking about questions that you've sent in, and we appreciate that, but let's continue on. So there are more symptoms too.
Yes, so certainly, and this is common in women, so women with pregnancy, certainly there's that relative loss in the blood volume, so that would be, and during the pregnancy, the baby is taking a lot of the iron for building their own blood system and their oxygenation. So that would be one common cause, and myself included through each of my 4 pregnancies, absolutely, I always became so deficient in the iron that this became, concerning at certain times during my pregnancies. And I only wish back then that I knew about some of these really targeted, whether it's a supplement or, some of the natural things that I could have been doing to support myself during my pregnancies. But everything is good. There's nothing is lost. I've learned it all now, and that's why I'm teaching it all to you to help you if you do have that iron deficiency. Certainly, if there's more blood loss in the body, so this could be from inflammatory bowel disease, so people who have Crohn's and colitis and they're losing blood, or if you donate blood, that could be another reason that you have a low iron. And certainly women with their menstrual cycles every month, there's a relative loss in that blood volume, and then we as women, we tend to be more deficient in the iron as opposed to the men.
Okay, you ready for some questions then?
Yes, I'd love to hear them.
And we appreciate all your questions that you send in, either ahead of time or now during the show. Ainsley wrote in saying, how do I know I need to take an iron supplement? That's a great question. Thank you, Ainsley.
Well, it is. And most times, unless we're having a blood test done, we wouldn't necessarily know that we need and it's time to supplement. But certainly if we do some of the tests, so whether it is checking underneath our eye, like we just mentioned, if we are checking here, if we have some of the symptoms, so the shortness of breath, you look very pale, and you just don't have that energy. So fatigue is probably one of the biggest symptoms of an iron deficiency. And maybe you've had iron deficiency in the past, and what's really common is that a lot of people will know that they have that iron deficiency anemia and they've been prescribed their iron pills and they're not taking them because it sits like a rock in their stomach. So certainly if your doctor has told you that you need to be taking your iron, you need to be taking your iron, but sometimes you need to find that iron supplement that's so much easier for your stomach, and can be difficult to find, but they are out there and they are available.
Great question, Ainsley. Thank you very much. And Neil also wrote in asking, is there anything I should or shouldn't be eating?
Yes, so here's the big one, and for all of you coffee I know you like coffee, right?
I'm a tea drinker.
Is
that about the same? Is that worse? Is it better?
Here's the thing, caffeine.
Can we talk about this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you like caffeine and you have caffeine in your diet, so whether that's, well, chocolate balances it out. So chocolate is a food that actually has natural iron, so that's okay. It's got a bit of caffeine. But if you're a tea drinker, I mean regular, black tea, or you're a coffee drinker, the caffeine depletes your iron. So this is crazy because I love, and people who know me, you know that I love my coffee if it's a good quality coffee, and from certain parts of the world it's my favorite. And I love coffee, but I tend to have low iron, so I have to be really careful and stay on top of my own supplementation of my iron and in my diet as well to make sure that I'm getting enough iron to keep my iron. And I know right away when I get a little bit out of breath when I go up the stairs, when I'm looking a little bit pale and I don't have that vital energy, I know that my iron level has dipped. And for a lot of people, if you've been prescribed your iron and you're not taking it, it's something that you really have to make sure that you're staying on top of it to make sure that you are treating that iron deficiency anemia.
It sounds really serious, actually. Now, is there an iron deficiency diet that actually I can follow? Is there such a thing?
Yes, there is an iron deficiency diet. So some of the things that I like to incorporate are prunes. So prunes are really helpful in the diet because they naturally contain an absorbable form, and certainly this is great for the vegetarians. This is an absorbable form of iron that you can definitely enjoy in prunes. Now plums will have a little bit of iron, but it's not as concentrated. And because you can see that dark color, so typically, the natural foods, the fruits that have that dark coloration contain that iron. So another one is blackstrap molasses. And when we take a look, at the color of blackstrap molasses, it is very dark in color, and you can see that is the iron. So a great tip with the blackstrap molasses is to mix about a teaspoon of that molasses into some hot water and do this at bedtime, and you can drink that. It has a bit of magnesium as well, but it also has that iron, which is in that absorbable form.
Does it taste good though?
It is. It's actually delicious.
Okay.
Yeah, in the warm water. That's the key, and it's very soothing, and it's a nice treat to have at bedtime and a natural way to get in those iron levels, which is great.
I love these natural ideas. Now you mentioned chocolate.
Yes.
Specifically dark chocolate, is that right?
Dark chocolate. So the darker the better. Certainly you want to have less sugar when you're eating chocolate, and I'm a chocoholic. I love chocolate, and I love dark chocolate. So that's not a stretch for me. I know people who can't go near dark chocolate, but try. I know it is bitter, but it's great for your iron levels and has a bit of magnesium as well. So that's fantastic. Another superfood that's great for the iron is spinach. So again, why did Popeye eat spinach? And to help with his muscle mass, but also the spinach is rich in iron and also has the vitamin C, and vitamin C helps with the absorption of the iron, which is fantastic. So that's another vegetarian source of the iron. We also always encourage vitamin C. So vitamin C fruits, certainly being kiwi, camu berries are very high in natural absorbable vitamin C, which is fantastic. And here we see them here. So great to take them. Sometimes it's easier to actually get them concentrated in a supplement form because they're difficult and they're hard to come by. They don't, they're not readily available, here in Canada. We can't readily get the fresh camu berries, right? So sometimes it's much easier to get it in a supplement form, as well as acerola cherries. So acerola cherries, also known as Barbados cherries, are very high in natural vitamin C. They're actually 13 times more concentrated in vitamin C as opposed to oranges. And oranges we always think of as sort of the gold standard for getting enough vitamin C, but the acerola cherries are really high in that vitamin C as well. So that's, those are the great foods that contain the natural vitamin C, but also the iron as well to help with that absorption.
And you could literally develop a whole diet on that, or on a lot of those components at least, right?
And certainly if you're iron deficient, and you'll start to see that your energy levels start to come back when you start to incorporate some of these things and these tips that we share in the video to really get your iron stores back and to, again, to do it naturally.
So some other things that can help along the way, what do you suggest?
Well, sometimes you need to go to supplementation. So certainly the best form of iron to take is called an iron bisglycinate. And a bisglycinate means that the iron is actually bound to glycine. And glycine is an amino acid that helps with the absorption. And you also want to make sure that if you're taking an iron supplement, that it's a whole food formulation. So typically whole food formulations of iron will contain an accessory nutrient, something like spirulina, which is naturally containing with some iron, but also some cofactors that actually help with the absorption of that iron, which is fantastic. Spirulina also helps to trap those heavy metal toxins, and that's why it is one of the ingredients in our recipe that we're sharing today, which I'm so excited to share with all of you. That's something that we recorded a little bit earlier today, but we're going to share that, so make sure that you're staying tuned for the recipe. But yeah, taking the iron bisglycinate form is the best absorbed form of iron for a supplement, and it doesn't upset your stomach. So for those of you who have taken iron supplements before, you know that it can really upset your stomach. It can sit like you swallowed a nail in your tummy and you don't feel well. Iron supplements typically are very constipating as well. So if it's not the iron bisglycinate, if it's a run-of-the-mill iron supplement that maybe has even been prescribed, they can sit like that iron nail in your stomach and be very constipating. So this is not something that you want, and certainly this is something that I struggled with in my pregnancies. You know, in having had to, I was mandated to take an iron supplement, but the problem was that I didn't feel so well, and I didn't feel so well anyways, and not to mention the constipation during pregnancy. I mean, who wants to add on more constipation? It's not a good it's not a good combination in pregnancy. So for me, you know, that was a challenge. It was very difficult. There are liquid iron supplements as well, but and they're okay, but they taste like iron when you take them. They're mixed with different herbs and things, so I don't love them, and they also stain your teeth. So that's again not a great option, you know, if you want to keep your teeth nice and white and clean. So
we've got more questions for you, and Q&A, questions with natural answers. We always appreciate your questions. Still to come, we've got to talk about kids, plus we have to talk about your furry friends, your pets, cats and dogs specifically. A beauty tip is on the way. The recipe's on the way in a moment too, which we're going to be talking about. But first of all, questions with natural answers. And Josie wrote in asking, how long will it take to feel a difference once I start taking a supplement?
Well, that's a great question. And certainly if it's the right type of iron supplement, it should take, you know, 2 to 3 days because of that rapid absorption. Absolutely. And not all supplements are created equal. So again, you want to look for that iron bisglycinate. But also, you know, it depends on your absorption. So if you have that compromised absorption, maybe you have some of the IBS or the Crohn's or celiac, then that absorption could take a little bit longer than someone else who has a healthy digestive tract. So it always seems to come back to the gut and healing the gut, and that's very, very important in terms of our overall health, is to get that healthy gut, heal that leaky gut. We've got other videos on that we've shared before, so certainly check out those other videos. But yeah, I mean, it could take up to a couple weeks depending again on what type of iron. If you're trying to do it just with dietary changes, I'd say it'd take at least 2 to 3 weeks to get that iron up. So for some people, if you're very deficient and you have that iron deficiency anemia, you've got a supplement to get your levels up to where they need to be, and some people need to stay supplemented all the time. It's very, very important. Think of, again, iron is our oxygenator of our blood, and if we don't have enough of that iron and that absorbable iron, whether it is from the diet or from a good supplement, then we can't carry that oxygen in our blood. It can really have some negative effects on our overall health and most importantly our energy levels throughout the day.
It's nice to hear natural answers to questions that we all often have or sometimes have never thought of, but other people are asking for us, like Ahmed, who wrote in asking, what are the side effects of taking an iron supplement, and is there anything I can do to alleviate those side effects?
Yes, so if you take iron and you take too much iron and you're not supposed to, so there's something, there's a condition called thalassemia in which you still have the fatigue and low energy and low iron, but by taking iron, you're actually making things worse. So this would not be a recommendation. This is why, getting that blood test done is very important to know why you may have that energy and what type of anemia you're dealing with. But certainly some of the other symptoms that we talked about, if you're taking the wrong type of iron supplement, you can really have, some nausea, you can feel unwell in your stomach, and it feels like you've swallowed something that you shouldn't be swallowing, and
like
constipation. Exactly. Constipation as well would be another side effect of taking some of the conventional iron supplements out there. So, yeah.
Wow. It's lots to think about, isn't it? But that's the beauty of being able to go back and look at other episodes, which you can find on YouTube and also on Facebook Live, of course, when you're looking up Dr. Janine. And remember to follow her on Instagram at Dr. Janine, DoctorJanine. And in a moment, we've got the Dr. J9 Truth coming up. But, and those of you who know what that is, I know you're looking forward to it. But first, Tracy also wrote in with a question too. And she said, my teenage daughter is showing symptoms of low iron. Among other things, she is tired all the time. That's something you talked about.
Yes.
Is it possible she may be suffering from iron deficiency?
Oh, absolutely. And I'd say, especially in a teenage and a young girl who's just started with her menstrual cycles, this can be and really offset the iron levels. So imagine, a young, healthy woman who didn't yet start her cycles is healthy and her iron levels are at a relative level, and that's good, and she has her energy, but then she starts to have her period, and now there's that relative decrease and a loss. And you're not losing, sorry to be graphic, Norm, we're talking women's stuff here, but
I have two kids. One is a daughter,
yeah,
who's gone through some of what you're talking about.
Yes.
And I understand things are sort of out of whack internally, right?
Oh yeah. Well, things can really get out of whack with us women, in case you haven't noticed yet. Yeah. So
continue.
Well, and so that relative decrease in that loss of the blood can really, and women I find always need to play catch up. So it's like we really have to be on top of our iron stores and making sure that whether it is dietarily that we're getting enough of that iron in our diet because of that relative loss. And that's why right after having our cycle, then we can have that fatigue and just feel off. And that's because we've lost that iron and with our cycle, and now we have to get it back again. So I always recommend, and when I was seeing my patients, I would always recommend that stay on top of it and know, when it's coming to that time of the month that you are definitely ramping up your iron containing foods, and then certainly throughout your cycle you're doing that, and then continue that. So it really is being mindful of what we are eating and knowing that our diet and the food that we eat has power, and it's supposed to fill us up and to combat those deficiencies that can happen. We should really never be in a deficient state if we have that proper digestion and we're doing everything right, if we're not medicated. Now certainly some of those medications like the proton pump inhibitors and some of the medications, if you need to take them for acid reflux, these can cause you to have this decrease of that ingestion and absorption of your iron, that this can put you in that deficiency state. So just to be cognizant of that you may be one of those people that just needs to supplement all the time.
You are what you eat?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's an old cliche for a
yeah.
reason, though. It's true, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you are what you eat, but you also are what you absorb. Okay. And this is when you have that compromised digestion and you're not absorbing properly, then this is where you run into some of these nutrient deficiencies that, yes, it's okay. And sometimes taking it from, whether it is a medication or taking something, even the supplements from an outside source, if you're not inherently treating the root cause, whether it is the parasites or what, the hookworm, or whether it is, that there's some internal bleeding that you're not aware of, and that could be causing that iron deficiency. So always you want to go, and this is what I always say, always go to the root cause as to why you may have that deficiency. It's one thing to supplement, but it's another thing that you've got to really investigate. Maybe it is the poor digestion and absorption. Maybe it's a leaky gut syndrome. That's why you have the iron deficiency to begin with. Or maybe it is the parasites, and you want to go and you want to treat that from the root cause.
I like what you said, though. You are what you absorb. I think that makes a lot of sense. You are what you absorb from what you take in and what you eat. It's time now for the Dr. J9 Truth, which is sort of what we've been talking about through this segment, through the entire hour really, and how it relates to mind, body, and spirit, iron deficiency, and the Dr. J9 Truth.
So in this case, when we're talking about an iron deficiency, iron being the oxygenator, giving life to your cells, then the way that I look at it and the Dr. J9 Truth is to really make sure that you're absorbing everything good from your life. And so if you're not absorbing and taking in everything good from your life, then you could be in that deficiency state. So really having that mind-body connection around absorbing everything good from your environment, the good, bad, and the ugly, but certainly you want to focus on the good and absorbing that into your life, then this can really, really help with that absorption of that iron. And think about oxygenation. Think about giving, and when you're feeding your body with these oxygen-rich foods and iron-rich foods, that you're helping with that oxygenation and carrying life throughout your body to all the cells of your body.
So that is what the Dr. J9 Truth is all about every week here on the Dr. Janine Show, every Monday night at 7 o'clock. By the way, when we are on, Dr. Janine is also online and accepting your questions then. And we want to just remind you to like, subscribe, and click that bell to turn on your notifications so you don't miss another episode, because we know you'll want to watch every week for sure. All right, so we did say we were going to be talking about pets, our furry friends, cats and dogs. Can cats or dogs also have iron deficiencies? Is that possible?
Yes, they can, and often you would never know this, and usually this is found sort of by mistake when your furry friend, so a cat or dog, has had some blood work done. So whether that's routine blood work at their checkup, and it could be because they have some internal bleeding that you wouldn't necessarily know about. So maybe it's parasitic infection, it could be a cancerous growth internally, and this could be causing that bleeding internally that you can't really see in the stool because it could be microscopic and can be causing that iron deficiencies. Those, all the more reason that you're having your pet checked regularly by a vet and having some blood work done periodically. But the good news is that we can help to treat this iron deficiency. So one of the great foods is spinach.
Spinach for your dog or your cat?
Yes.
Okay.
Dogs and cats can have spinach. Now, you don't want to overdo it, certainly. And if they have a urinary disorder, this is not recommended because of the calcium oxalate, which can be a problem in the kidneys. But a little bit of spinach can give some natural absorbable iron. Another great food for dogs and cats is watermelon.
Really? This is totally new to me, but I'm glad that you're explaining it. This is outrageous, but good.
Yes, so watermelon has a bunch of antioxidants, and also the vitamin C. And remember, vitamin C helps with that absorption of the iron. So this is a great, tasty. Our dog, Jasper, he loves watermelon. And whenever I'm cutting it up, I always make sure he gets his portion. And probably he gets a little bit more than he should. But it's a great way to make sure that those iron stores are where they should be.
Seedless watermelon for your dog or cat next time you're out at the grocery store? Why not? Now you know it's actually a good thing for them. So as we transition to our beauty tip of the week, I'm looking forward to this. I've been with Dr. Janine practicing this and looking forward to it every week. What have we got in store for everybody this time?
So our facial yoga for today, we're going to work on forehead lines. So forehead
lines, oh my goodness, yes.
So if you're very expressive.
I'm a little sensitive about that, okay? I don't even know if I like talking about it, but yes, okay.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't see any. Come on, Norm. So the forehead line, so certainly if you have an expressive face, which I always say is fantastic, and it's the more you can express and the more smile lines you get, the better if you love them. But at the same time, if we can minimize, how deep these lines are getting, and the forehead lines, if you're the person that is always in shock and you're always, what? Then you're utilizing these muscles, right? My kids do that, and our eldest son, he starts doing that. I'm like, don't do that. You're gonna get the lines on your face. He'll hate me for saying that, but yeah. So if you're, what, mom, what? I have to come home at that time. What? No. So, yeah. You know who I'm talking about. So if you're watching right now. So anyways, so what we want to do is we want to push down gently on this area, because we don't want to, if you do have the lines, we don't want to exasperate the fact that we're going to be using these muscles, because that's exactly what we're going to do, is we're going to utilize the muscles here that cause the lines. But what we're going to do is we're going to press down at the same time. So we're going to gently press down on this area. Yeah. So if you do have the lines, you're sort of smoothing them out. And then you're going to, much like, now you're going to lift your
eyebrows?
Lift your eyebrows. So much like how we did the eyebrow push-ups.
Yes, yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going, and I'm going to look right in the camera so everybody can see me at home. And you're going to do about 15 reps. And I'm already starting to sweat. I don't know about you, but.
Yeah. It's actually a workout.
It is a workout.
You look really distressed when you do it.
I know I do. You
look like you're freaking out.
So about 15 reps.
Oh my God, I can totally feel that in there. Wow, I didn't even know I had muscles there.
Yeah, and this is the great thing about it, because what you're doing essentially when you're working out your facial muscles is that you're helping to pump up those muscles. So much like the other muscles that we work out when we're lifting weights, we're pumping up those muscles beneath the skin. And if you think about it, when you pump up a muscle beneath the skin, now what it's doing, it's helping to smooth out the skin on top, because the muscle is now bigger and sort of pushing up and making the skin smoother. So that's my tip of the week.
That's amazing. I love that one. Because a lot of people can relate to this, right? Can't you? And it's not just when you get just older either. These are, I mean, almost all ages.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've seen very young people with the forehead lines. Again, if you have an expressive face, fantastic. It's wonderful. But at the same time, maybe you question things a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Like, what time does your son have to come home at night? I heard that. Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. Every week, a different beauty tip, a natural beauty tip, as you can tell. And what's been happening actually is facial exercises. Facial yoga has been the beauty tip. All right, so it's time for the recipe. I always look forward to this part of the show every single week, because it's always something spectacular and yummy. Do you want to talk about it first or just show it? What do you think?
I think let's go and show it.
All right, it's called the Blue Hawaiian Smoothie Bowl. Doesn't that sound great? Perfect in time for summer too, or any time for that matter. Watch this, Dr. Janine showing you the Blue Hawaiian Smoothie Bowl.
This is a delicious Blue Hawaiian smoothie bowl. So we're gonna blend this all up. So this is an orange flavored, sugar-free, mixed in water. And we have some vanilla protein powder and some frozen banana and some frozen pineapple. And now for our iron, we have 2 capsules of iron with spirulina. And our magical ingredient, the Blue Magic. And now we're going to blend it all up. And now that it's all blended up, it's ready to pour into our bowl. And now we're ready to garnish. So first we have some dehydrated blueberries, and we're going to put that around the outside. And now some desiccated coconut. It's going to go around the edge very lightly. And now, of course, the cherry on top.
Wow, the Blue Hawaiian Smoothie Bowl, that looks so good.
It is so delicious, Norm. I can't wait for you to try it. It really is so yummy. And what we mixed into it was the spirulina, and the spirulina with the iron bisglycinate in it. So spirulina naturally traps some of those heavy metal toxins, which can compromise our iron levels. And it also has that blue magic, and the blue magic is like chlorella. So it's a blue-green algae, which gives it that beautiful color. So I can't wait for you all to try that recipe. It is just not only aesthetically aesthetically beautiful. It's so pretty, but it's delicious. It really is good. And if you've got that low iron, a great way to get your iron, and a healthy way, delicious way to get your iron levels where they should be.
Sounds like something Elvis would drink, the Blue Hawaiian. Oh, I know what I want to ask you too, by the way. I know a number of coffee drinkers. I know I mentioned I drink tea, but I do know a lot of people who drink coffee, a lot of it.
Yes.
When you speak about caffeine, how much caffeine is too much caffeine, though, in this case?
Yeah, so I'd say more than a couple of cups of coffee a day, you're going to start to see that depletion of your iron levels. So that would be a little bit more tea. So each cup of tea, I don't know if you knew this, each cup of tea has about 37 milligrams, to be exact,
Really?
of,
Okay.
of caffeine if you're drinking regular black tea, orange pekoe tea. So certainly caffeine can have upwards, depending on the type of coffee, can have upwards close to 80 or so milligrams of caffeine per cup. So yeah, so caffeine you could drink a little bit more and get away with it and not have it affect your iron levels. Coffee a little bit less. So that's probably the reason why my iron, to be honest, putting it all out there, but because I love my coffee, right?
Yeah.
So I always have to sort of play catch up and make sure that in terms of my diet, I'm getting enough of that iron, but also, you know, I do need to supplement as well.
Do you decide for yourself you're not going to have any coffee past a certain time of day?
Yes, I am super sensitive to caffeine, so I can't have, you know, coffee past usually 4 or 5 o'clock if I need to stay up and do something or, you know, enjoy
Life?
with
Or
the
research
kids or
next week.
or party or whatever. I can allow myself to have caffeine a little bit. Yeah, why'd you go to research? Of course, that's because he knows me really very well. Well, that I'm of course on the computer and doing my geekiness and got to get in that extra few studies that I have to read. But yeah, no, on the lighter side of things, that enjoying life, and I'll push it a little bit with the caffeine, but I have to be really careful, or else I'm up, you know, until 1, 2, 3 in the morning. If I'm very sensitive.
Do you ever recommend decaffeinated coffee to people?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's a great tip. So decaf coffee, but you want it to be Swiss water decaf. So you want it to be naturally decaffeinated, because if they use the ethylene chloride, which is a chemical to remove, and most decaffeinated coffee, they use the ethylene chloride to take the caffeine out. So you always want to look for naturally decaffeinated coffee.
Will it be on the label? It'll say? It'll
Yes,
tell us
and that's
that?
what you're
Oh,
looking for
okay.
specifically on the label. You're looking for the naturally decaffeinated, so without the
Amazing.
chemicals.
The Blue Hawaiian Smoothie Bowl, those of you who are still thinking about that, is available, and meaning the recipe is available on TikTok too, plus on Instagram. Watch for @Dr. Janine, the whole spelling it out, DOCTORJANINE, and also on Facebook all this week, so you can see the recipes there.
What did you think about the TikTok?
The TikTok thing is, except for my part, I thought it was very
What do
funny.
you mean?
No, actually it was funny. It was hilarious.
It was funny, and I just showed that to Norm today. He hadn't seen, he didn't know that.
No.
Norm didn't know he was on TikTok until, just a few moments ago.
I didn't know I'd been voluntold to be on TikTok now, so yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's fun. And so look up Dr. Janine there on TikTok for not just the recipe, but other videos going forward too.
Yes.
And they're really cool. They're really well done,
Well,
I have to say.
Well, it's fun. I love doing the recipes. I mess up. We have so many outtakes of my clumsiness in the kitchen set.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Curtis Stone and all those lovelies who are very good. And kudos to all of you, because it's not as easy as it looks to be talking and flipping and mixing and doing all of these things. So I do my best. So yeah, one day we'll show you all the bloopers of behind the scenes Dr. J9.
Yeah, Wolfgang Bowring here for you. So just to remind everybody, when you're watching us, no matter what platform you're on, or depending on the platform you're on, I should say, make sure you like, subscribe, and click the bell to turn on your notifications so you never miss another episode. It's been a really interesting segment this past hour talking about iron deficiency, the symptoms, how we can avoid the symptoms, recognize the symptoms a little easier, kids, pets, that fabulous recipe, of course, and the Dr. J9 truth, which is always an important part of what we talk about. Oh, and the beauty tip, of course, also. My facial exercises, I'll be working my forehead all for the rest of the evening and until next week. So I'm already looking forward to next week, actually. And you can look at all the past weeks on YouTube or on Facebook if you want, but what can we expect going forward to next week?
So next week we have a fantastic week, and we'll be talking about men's health and help with the prostate. So of course Father's Day is around the corner, so we're talking men's health.
I don't see any gloves around here, by the way, but anyway, go ahead.
No, we're talking prostate health. We're talking about fertility as well, and we'll be talking about changes in our sex drive as we're aging and what we can do naturally about that.
Okay, we're going to be doing that. And by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to leave the questions starting now and going through the week, actually. We love getting all your questions, and you're getting answers with a natural element to them. Natural answers from a naturopathic doctor. I'm Norm Murray. Dr. Janine is here for the Dr. Janine Show. We really appreciate you watching us every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time live on Facebook Live and also YouTube. And you can also look at the backlog of, or I should say the backup weeks that we've had also, the other weeks in the past. Maybe you should speak. Go ahead. Thanks, everybody.
Well, thanks, Norm. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in and sending in your questions. And always be sure to take good care of your health and do it naturally.